I'm just shocked at all the deaths of children and the bombing, just continued bombing of poor innocent people that have got absolutely nothing to do with this whatsoever. Shocking.
Honestly, it boils my blood to see the Western mainstream media choose to blatantly ignore what's going on and instead focus on the people that are actually the culprits, put them out to be the victims.
Surrounding of hospitals and trying to force people out of them is, I just cannot imagine, I can't imagine the terror of the people in there, and I just can't imagine what the Israeli government thinks it's going to succeed on doing it. All it's doing is turning more of the world against it, and it's just demonstrating that it is in fact a terrorist state.
I just felt it was really important on Armistice Day of all days. Armistice means an end to fighting. So, and it also, Armistice Day is to commemorate those who have given their lives in service for their country. So why wouldn't I be here? I've lost members of my family in wars, and I'm here to honour all those people who've been forced into that, and to say we need a ceasefire now. I don't really see how much more simple the message can be.
It's not really a choice. I have to be here. I have to be one of the people standing up for what's right.
We're here from a place of love, and it's very much a love of humanity that makes us march today. We're in horror in ourselves at what's happening in Gaza and Palestine and Israel. And we want a ceasefire. We want to see an absolute ceasefire right now.
I came to the demonstration 2 weeks ago and I marched with the Jewish bloc, and I've been so upset by seeing what has been happening to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank and the effect that this is having on the whole world, that I just thought I have to come in again today as a Jewish person to make it very clear that whilst I understand the fear of anti-Semitism, and I understand that lots of people have been brought up to believe that they are at risk all the time, in this country at least, thank God, Jewish people do not have to keep a suitcase by the back door, and that Israel does not speak for every single Jew in this country. And for me, I find it Jewishly offensive, actually, that this is being done pretty much in my name, both as a British citizen but also as a Jewish person in the diaspora.
I'm disgusted as a British woman first for the way that they are speaking and the language that they are using. How dare they say that the lives of the Palestinians mean nothing? How dare they say that we are here marching in hate? We are not. We are here standing up for the truth. We are here standing up against genocide. We are here to speak up our voices against apartheid of what is happening in the in the Gaza Strip.
I live in Ludlow in Shropshire, and I've come down. Actually, I was thinking twice about coming, and then Suella Braverman ran ranting on about how biased the police are to the poor right, and I thought I've got to come down.
Come down from Edinburgh. Come down on the train this morning from 5:36 in the morning, the first one, because I was hearing there was a reduced service, everything was going to be difficult, so I wanted to give myself as much time possible to get to Hyde Park, and I'm getting the 6:27 back, the last train. We've had good demos in Scotland against it too, but when Suella started trying to ban the march this week and failed, and it created a political crisis that might yet see her go, I thought I'd better come down to support this one.
Those who carry on and stay silent while children are being murdered will be remembered in history as those who are complicit in war crimes.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Billions in our billions! We are all Palestinians! Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina!
We'll be free!
Free, free
Palestine!
Free, free
Palestine!
Well, this
This leaflet will tell you all you need to know about it, and what I would suggest is that you join the Stop Starmer campaign. We're asking questions of him, we're trying to hold him to account. There are things that are truly worrying about him on an anti-democratic, authoritarian kind of basis.
I've been to Palestine twice myself, and I've taken part in demonstrations there and been shot at. And you know, here, all the demonstrations I've been on ever have been peaceful, there've hardly been any police, haven't needed to be. And for this one, I came 2 weeks ago and there were hardly any police. 500,000 people here, walking around the streets, calling for there to be ceasefire and for there to be humane treatment of people in Gaza. And there's been Suella Braverman talking about hate. And that is not what these demonstrations are about.
And what's the atmosphere been today?
Peaceful, that's for sure. And just this sense of unity, people from all backgrounds. It's really beautiful to see. I've seen Jewish people, Christian, Muslim, people of no faith at all come together. And there's a real sense of humanity where we were losing that hope over the past 4 weeks.
And what's the atmosphere been like?
Love, peace.
This time the narrative is not going with the media. The people are writing the narrative, and the people are writing the narrative of humanity, and that's what's happening at the moment. Yeah.
There are politicians who want to ban marches like this. This has been described as a hate march. A hate march. A demonstration demanding a ceasefire on Armistice Day is described as a hate march. This only makes sense if they want to silence you. Will you be silent? Will you be silent? I look around you. I see tolerance. I see love. I see all communities. I see all colors. I look around and I see Muslims, Christians, and Jews. And please applaud our Jewish brothers and sisters who are with us today and have been with us for 75 years. Applaud them! Applaud them!
And us, Na'amat, we've made our choice. And the Jewish bloc at the march, which I want to tell you today, has over 1,000 people in it. And our community is only 280,000 people strong. That's 1,000 of us that came down today to stand in solidarity with Palestinians. We've chosen life, we have chosen hope, we have chosen justice, and we have made it very, very clear today that we are not standing in spite of the fact that we are Jewish. We are standing because we are Jewish. In the book of Exodus, it says, do not treat strangers unkindly, because we were strangers in the land of Egypt. We know what it was like. We know what it is like, and that is why we are standing. Jewish safety is not opposed to Palestinian liberation. It's tied to it. You cannot have one without the other. And none of us here are free until all of us are free.
Noura Radwan, 3 years old. Lara Al-Hilu, 3 years old. Hamza Alewa, 3 years old. Muhammad Yassin, 3 years old. Amir Dhir, 3 years old.
Adam Al-Hila, 3 years old. Mu'man Al-Hila, 2 years old. Mahmoud Abed, 2 years old. Habiba Dahir, 1 year old. Yaqut Dahir, 1 year old. Naveen Al-Aqid, 1 year old. Muhammad Radwan, under 1 year old. Muhammad Al-Aqid, under 1 year old. Muhammad Al-Awa, under 1 year old. Asil Dahir, under 1 year old. Marah Sa'id, 17 years old. Mu'tasim Abu Ubaid, 16 years old.
My name is Rafeef. I'm a third-generation Palestinian refugee from occupied Palestine, soon to be free Palestine. Some of you might know me from a poem I wrote called We Teach Life. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits, and I wish I could wail over their bodies. I wish I could run barefoot in every refugee camp and hold every child, cover their ears so they wouldn't have to hear the sound of bombing for the rest of their lives the way that I do, because we teach life, sir. It is difficult to find words anymore. And it is not just the televised massacres and the numbers of deaths. It is the life-changing injuries, the flesh and bones burnt and broken, targeting hospitals and now even targeting incubators, the trauma we will all live with. It is also not just the women and the children, our men, our shabab, every one of them, a life, a moon, an entire constellation. They have lifted the world on their shoulders for a month now, comforting babies, saving lives. They are no less worthy. So I will say that we will never forget that this ugliness, this brutality, this calculated cruelty by Israel was unleashed and cheered on by the British government, by the US government, and by the EU. And we will not forget that the so-called opposition in this country, who think they're just going to get into office by being the most boring opposition in history, gave the green light. And on top of that, they want us to be silent. They want to ban marches. They want Gaza alone. But Gaza and Palestine will never, ever, ever be alone. And we might forget that, but don't forget that in every city around the world, from Amman to Malaysia to Mexico, people are marching for justice. So let me say here when I look at this beautiful gathering for justice, let me say this as I look at all of you. Let your voices be louder than the sound of artillery over Gaza. Let your voices be louder than the sound of artillery over Gaza. Let them hear you. Let them hear you. Let them hear you across historic Palestine. Let them hear you. This week, 28 campuses walked out. I call on my own union, the UCU, let's walk out. This week, Stop Arming Israel Days of Actions happened in factories all across the world. They shut down the arms trade. Dock workers in Barcelona and in Genoa stood with us and refused to transport arms. We look forward to the trade union movement here to stop the war machine. As long as this is happening, as long as it's happening with our tax dollars and our tax pounds, as long as it is happening in this country, we will not stop marching. We will come out again and again and again and again and again until the bombing stops. Until the bombing stops, we will shut it down. Let your voices be heard.
Let your voices be heard. Let them hear you in Gaza.
Let me start by being absolutely clear. It wasn't Westminster that sent me to Bradford East. It was the people of Bradford East that sent me to Westminster, and the people of Bradford East expect me to stand up and be counted when such injustice is taking place. All my life I have stood up against persecution, oppression and injustice, whether that's in Palestine, Kashmir, Burma or anywhere else. And I say this here today, I will never be silenced. Friends, what we are witnessing is beyond the humanitarian emergency, beyond the humanitarian crisis, beyond the humanitarian catastrophe. And let me be clear, what we are witnessing are grave violations of international law and war crimes under the Geneva Conventions. 11,000 Palestinians slaughtered, over 1,200 Israelis massacred, 7,000 women and children murdered, tens of thousands of civilians maimed and wounded, 1.5 million forced to flee their homes, 200 doctors, nurses and paramedics killed, 2 million people denied food, water, medicine and power, diseases running rampant in overcrowded shelters, and 10,000 buildings, including mosques, churches, schools, hospitals, refugee camps and homes, flattened and reduced to rubble. So let there be no doubt, these are acts of collective punishment, violations of international law, and they are war crimes, plain and simple, and we must condemn them for what they are.
This is a cry for love, this is a cry for peace, this is a cry for ceasefire, and this is a cry for our humanity. And I'm going to read now a poem by Haider Eid, who's a professor and writer from Gaza. I imagine that my ghost is standing beside the ruins of another house in Al Ramal. Al Ramal used to be a docile neighbourhood in Gaza City. My ghost pats one of my university students, a brilliant student, on the shoulder, offering her a tissue to wipe her tears. It embraces her father and carries her little sister, who weeps as she searches for their mother under the rubble. Ghosts do not cry. My ghost is an exception. This incident must be recorded as the first weeping ghost in history. My ghost sings to a pretty woman on a rock in the middle of what was once a home that contained dreams, hopes and desires. My ghost wipes her tears and weeps with her. My ghost reflects on the pain of birth. My ghost goes to Nusrat refugee camp. In Nusrat, my ghost hears the cooing of a dove coming from the south, from Khan Yunis. The dove bears the story of another home. The home is a lover. She is you and you are her. There are no boundaries, no separation. When the home is demolished, something within you dies. Where is my mum? A little girl screams. Where is my dad? The girl is beside the rubble of yet another house. The rubble where the cooing dove has landed. I try to pull myself together and I fail. My shadow refuses to return to my body. On Lalat Akado, the night of destiny, my prayer was, oh God, make me be Superman. During these massacres, I ask nothing else, oh merciful God. Make me be Superman, and I will not attack any soldier. I will not be aggressive towards Benjamin Netanyahu. I will not be aggressive even to Benny Gantz, who boasted of sending Gaza back to the Stone Age with all the slaughter he ordered in 2014. And I will not be any threat to Joe Biden or Rishi Sunak. The only thing I will do will be to intercept the shells before they kill the children of Gaza. My ghost decides to take leave and is forever gone. Thank you.
They tried. They tried with all their might to stop us marching. But here we are. 750,000 strong! Never before have we seen these numbers in support of the Palestinian people. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you. We, the Palestinians, thank you. As you all know, today's Armistice Day. A day when we remember that peace is better than war. On this day, our government wants us to believe that when we march for peace, we disrespect the fallen. When we march for peace, we disrespect this country. It is you, Rishi Sunak, who dishonors the memory of the fallen when you refuse to call for a ceasefire. It is you, Suella Braverman, who dishonors this country and your position when you call this march a hate march and you mobilize your right-wing goons when you know full well that we are marching for peace. They don't care about honoring the dead. They don't care about honoring this country. They are liars and they are hypocrites. We all know that the absolute best way to honor those who sacrificed their lives in devastating wars is to make sure those wars never happen again.
Thanks to you, we are seeing that politicians are being forced to confront the horrors that they have witnessed and accept our calls for a ceasefire. Just last night, President Macron called on Israel to stop killing Gaza's women and babies, and he said there is no justification for the bombing, and he is right. And those politicians still cheering on the bombing, or those complicit in their failure to condemn and their silence, including Keir Starmer, the leader of my own party, should be ashamed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the organisers of this wonderful march. And thank you to all of you, every single one of you, that have made their way here from every part of this country. I was in Coventry on Thursday night. The main discussion was, how do you hire a coach to get to London on Saturday? And that discussion was repeated in towns and cities all over the country. And over 750,000 of us are here today in solidarity with the people of Palestine. And they said we shouldn't be marching on Remembrance Weekend. Well, I simply say this: we march in memory of all those that have died in all wars, in all conflicts. And we march today for a ceasefire to save life in Gaza as well for the future, and give a future to the Palestinian people. Suella Braverman and Rishi Sunak tried to prevent this march taking place. They tried to say that we couldn't have a demonstration in London. But to the credit of the organisers of today's fantastic march, they simply said no. Tony Benn once said the most powerful word in politics is no. We are going to march, and we're here today, and we've asserted that right to march, to demonstrate for free speech in solidarity with people who at this very moment lives are being destroyed and they are being bombed. But the solidarity around the world is amazing. You look at the marches in Latin America, in the United States, all over Europe, in Africa and Asia, and today just got word that a ship bound for Israel was stopped from leaving in Sydney by Australian dockers and trade unionists. They heeded the call made by Palestinian trade unionists to stop the arming of Israel, which is being used to bomb people in Gaza. And so it is those acts of solidarity around the world that are so very, very important today. Now, like all of you, I'm sure you find it very, very stressful watching on television. Al Jazeera virtually live streaming from Gaza most of the time. When you see a jet flying in and bombing a hospital or homes or schools, and then you see a stream of people, not unlike the stream of us that marched here today from Hyde Park, those people are the refugees of tomorrow. The people of Gaza are the refugees of yesterday from 1948. And if Israel gets its way, people will be driven out of the Gaza Strip southwards through the Rafah crossing into Sinai, and a new Gaza will be formed, a new place under military control, and a new place where the hopes and determination of people are constantly frustrated by the inability to move, to work, to travel, to do all the things we want to do. And then you look at the destruction that's going on and look at that solidarity. Firstly, let's send a message of solidarity to everyone all over the world who are demonstrating for the people of Palestine, including those people in Israel that are opposing Israel's occupation of the West Bank and their bombardment of Gaza. They deserve our solidarity too. And then think of the 10,000 who have died already, including 4,000 children. The teachers who've died and will never teach again. The doctors who cared for people will never get that chance again. The poets, the writers, the engineers, the street cleaners, the taxi drivers, all those lives snuffed out. And then think of children that are dying, who will never see another summer, will never learn to music, never learn sport, never learn the joys of life. Destroyed because Israel claims its self-defense includes the bombing of schools and hospitals. We say no, absolutely no. The lives of Palestinian people come first. Therefore, a ceasefire has to be demanded. And instead of sending weapons of war to Israel, which is what is happening by the United States and by all the other countries, those, I'm glad to say, are often being frustrated by demonstrations and by action. And yesterday we were commemorating the lives of medical people, doctors and nurses, orderlies and so on, who had died in Gaza. And somebody held up a very important, very small homemade placard in respect of Britain sending warships to the Mediterranean, saying, don't send warships, send hospital ships instead to deal with the injured and those that are trying to survive. And so our demonstrations are united around the world. And when Sunak and Braverman denounce us as being part of a march of hate, the only march of hate I've seen recently is the far right trying to divide and destroy our communities. We're here together. We're every community, we're every faith, we're every religion, we're every language. We are a people who will not be divided by this, because our unity is in solidarity with people under occupation. Yes, supporting the people of Gaza today, but also supporting the people of the West Bank under occupation, supporting those that have lost their homes and their land to the settlers who are now behaving with unspeakable violence towards Palestinian families. And if I may say so, never ever forget the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians living in refugee camps in Syria, in Lebanon, in Jordan, and part of that diaspora around the world. But if nothing else, the horror story of the past months, the horror story of the bombardment and the loss of life on all sides, has united people in a growth of understanding of what this conflict is really about. And what other wars are about as well, fueled by an arms trade, fueled by greed, fueled by politicians who can't look beyond the next piece of triangulation and self-preferment. So I ask you this. Next Wednesday, our Parliament, the House of Commons, will be voting on amendments to the King's Speech debate. There are amendments down there on calling for a ceasefire. So I ask you this. You may not have ever done it before. Email your MP. Tell them, put aside your greed, put aside your cynical calculations of what advances you, what advances the arms industry, what advances somebody else, and simply say this to them. A ceasefire now in Gaza would save thousands and thousands of lives. A ceasefire now in Gaza would open up the prospect for real peace and real justice for the people of Palestine. And so those who think we are simply going to demonstrate today, all of you behind me, beside me, beyond me, and so on there, all of those that think we're simply going to go away, dream on. We are not forsaking the Palestinian people. We're not going away. We're not disappearing. Our solidarity is with them, demanding ceasefire now and peace for all of the peoples of the Middle East. Thank you for coming here today.
And how's the atmosphere today?
It's phenomenal. I've stood taking pictures, and at one point, well, at several points actually, I started crying. It's awesome. And there's so many placards that people have made themselves. You know, there's no way it's regimented. It's very, very moving. Just so many people. There's a huge mobilization. I can see this costing voter-seeking Starmer, you know, the election, or at least a majority. It's absolutely phenomenal turnout. And this is not a hate march. Couldn't get much further from it.